Americans break these rules. Day 1 in Australia.
Within the first 24 hours of landing in Australia, almost every American breaks a rule. Not a law. Not something that gets police involved. Something quieter. And honestly, something worse, because nobody tells them they did it. They just feel it. A look. A pause. A slightly awkward silence that they can't quite explain. By the end of this video, you're going to know exactly what these rules are, and more importantly, why breaking them says something much bigger about the difference between how America and Australia actually work. And stick with me, because the last one on this list isn't really a rule at all. It's the realization that catches even Australians off guard when they hear an American explain it back to them. It's the one that flips the entire video on its head. If you're new here, this is exactly what this channel does. Hit subscribe now because you don't want to be catching up later. Let's get into it. It starts before an American even makes it inside a building. Walking down the street, they naturally drift toward the middle of the footpath, because in a lot of American cities, footpaths are personal space. First come, first served. Nobody's thinking about lanes. In Australia, there's an unspoken system. Keep left, exactly like driving. Nobody explains it. Nobody has to, because every local already knows it, the same way they know not to touch a hot stove. So when an American walks straight down the middle, they don't get yelled at. They get something almost more unsettling, a tiny shoulder dodge from a stranger, followed by a muttered sorry from the person who did absolutely nothing wrong. That one moment sets the tone for the entire trip, because it's the first sign of something much bigger. Australia runs on rules nobody says out loud, and the second one hits even faster. An American gets on a train and naturally starts talking, on the phone to a friend at a completely normal volume because that's just normal back home. Except a lot of Australian public transport carries this unspoken hush, not dead silent, just calm. People read. People stare out the window. Nobody's holding court like they're the only one in the carriage. So when an American breaks that hush, they usually don't even clock it, until they notice the whole carriage has gone strangely, distinctly, very Australianly quiet around them. And here's the wildest part. Nobody says anything. That's the most Australian response of all. No confrontation, just a very loud kind of silence that somehow says everything. But that's nothing compared to what happens when an American tries small talk with a tradesperson, because that one catches people totally off guard. Quick pause. If this is resonating so far, subscribing actually makes a real difference for a channel this size. It's the single biggest thing that helps us keep making these. Okay, moving on. Someone comes to fix a pipe, install something, drop off a delivery. In a lot of American households, that's a moment for warmth. Hey, how's your day going? You want some water? It's hot out there. In Australia, a quick hey, how's it going is plenty. Maybe a joke. Maybe nothing at all beyond the job itself. Americans who lean into the extended warmth sometimes get a slightly confused look back, not because Australians are cold, but because there's an unspoken efficiency to it. Get in, do the job, have a laugh if there's time, get out. Friendliness here doesn't require a conversation. It's shown differently, in the ease of the interaction, not the length of it. And once Americans clock that, it changes how they read almost every interaction for the rest of the trip, including the next one, which might be the most misunderstood rule of them all. Americans are trained, pretty much from childhood, to soften things. That's an interesting idea instead of no. Let me think about it instead of not happening. Australians largely skip that step. If something's not going to work, they'll usually just say so, directly, sometimes bluntly. And it's not rudeness. It's actually considered more respectful here to tell someone the truth immediately, instead of wasting their time with a soft no that isn't really a no. But to an American ear that's never had to decode bluntness as kindness, it can land like a slap. Some walk away from an entirely ordinary, friendly interaction, convinced they upset someone, while the Australian on the other end has already moved on and forgotten the conversation happened. This mismatch, directness read as rudeness, might be the single biggest misfire between these two cultures. And it sets up perfectly for the next rule because it's about to get even more direct. Back home, plenty of American cities run at full speed 7 days a week. Shops open late every night, deliveries any day, something always happening. In a lot of Australia, Sunday still slows all the way down. Shops close early, smaller towns can feel like someone hit this wall, and are genuinely stunned. Not angry, just confused, like they've wandered into a small time warp nobody warned them about. It's not laziness. It's a completely different relationship with rest. The idea that not everything needs to be available on demand, all the time, forever. And that rule usually kicks off the bigger question underneath everything on this list, the one we're about to get into properly. Here's one that sneaks up on people. Queuing. Waiting in line. In America, especially in busy cities, lines can get tight. People bunch close, sometimes cut in subtly, sometimes just push the pace along. In Australia, there's an expected buffer, a gap. Standing too close to the person in front feels, to a local, almost aggressive, even if it's completely unintentional. Americans used to tighter, faster-moving lines sometimes close that gap without even noticing. And the person in front? They usually won't say a word. They'll just shuffle forward slightly, again and again. It's such a small thing. But stacked with everything else on this list, it points to the exact same pattern. Australia runs on space, patience, and unspoken agreement, while a lot of American life runs on speed and directness. Which finally brings us to the rule that flips this entire video on its head. Here's the twist. After breaking every single one of these rules, footpaths, silence, small talk, directness, Sunday hours, personal space, most Americans don't leave annoyed. They leave asking a very different question. Why did I never notice these were choices back home? Because that's really what all of this comes down to. None of these rules are really about footpaths or Sundays. They're about two countries that built two completely different definitions of what considerate even means. America built its version around individual space, speed, and constant availability. Australia built its version around shared space, quiet patience, and knowing exactly when to switch off. Neither one is wrong, but you don't notice you're inside one of them until you land somewhere that made the opposite choice. And once Americans see that, they start looking at their own culture completely differently too. So here's a real question for you, and I actually want an answer in the comments. Out of everything on this list, the footpaths, the silence, the directness, the personal space, which one do you think would trip you up the most if you landed in Australia tomorrow with zero warning? Comment it below. I'm reading every single one, and I might build the next video entirely around your answers. And if this is the first video of ours you've watched, this channel is built entirely around moments like this. The invisible rules nobody explains until someone from the outside breaks them by accident. We're still small but growing fast, and honestly, subscribing right now genuinely matters more than you'd think. It's the one thing that keeps this channel able to keep making these. So hit subscribe, drop your answer in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.